Hey meow meow everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. We can update on a couple of stocks here. Just gonna go for MSTR ticker symbol. It's MicroStrategy. This has been extremely volatile. This has been extremely bullish for a very long time, and now all of a sudden you've gone through a lot of really big giant red candles on a daily basis for quite some time now. So a lot of people end up wondering what's going on with MicroStrategy. The key thing is that there are two big giant green candles over here, and things have just gotten way too overextended for the month of February and for the month of March. Right now, April seems to be a corrective month, and your question is maybe how far is it going to correct? What could be potentially a good entry point if you're interested in MicroStrategy? Or if you end up getting stuck here, if you bought at a big giant wick over here, a little bit less than 2,000, your question would be, okay, so should I get out now? What are some of the risk level below? Where are some of the prices that I could potentially get down to? So here to answer some of your questions on that. Again, none of these are financial advice. I'm just here to basically show you technical analysis and show you what I'm seeing. One thing is very important is to show the volume shelf. The volume shelf over here is basically telling you that there's a lot of there's a lot of training history here between the price of around 1700s to around 1500s or so. So there's a little bit of peak right here, which could potentially serve as a little bit of a resistance that we need to get above before further continuation. And you can see there's a volume shelf underneath right here around 1300s. You're really around like 1300, 1200, somewhere around here. And I think that this is probably going to serve as a pretty decent support level. I'm going to show you a few indicators as to why I think that is. But if you're wondering about whether or not to get into MicroStrategy, I mean, obviously getting into it now is going to be much better than buying the top of the wick right here around 2000. But, there might still be some potential downside. There's no guarantee. There's also no guarantees it's going to necessarily go down to those potential downside. Although the monthly candle did, close right at the bottom of this candle right here, which it's only been 5 trading days. There's a potential for the price to continue to kind of go down here to around 1300 or so. And I'll kind of tell you why that is. One of the reasons why I think that the reason for that is if you look at the Ichimoku cloud. I'm just going to pull up the Ichimoku cloud over here. You can see that things have just kind of gotten way overextended here. Initially, I was hoping that Tenkan would be able to kind of catch up, spike up a little bit to serve a little bit as a support here, but it just kind of went flat. This is a moving period average. There just hasn't been enough, further bullish price action for you to really try to push the Tenkan and the Kijun up to serve as further support. Tenkan is the red line right here. Kijun is the blue line right here. And once things kind of broke out about this Ichimoku cloud, things has just gotten really, really parabolic really fast. But because of this parabola, that you do need to at some point kind of follow gravity, kind of test a little bit, step a little bit before you can have further bullish continuation. The problem right now you're getting is really that it's just kind of getting way above the Tenkan. And throughout this entire bull market over here, Tenkan has served as more or less as a support to you to see actually, okay, so I found support here, I found support here. All along, now I can go up a lot higher, right? And it's service support at a couple of pretty key points here. Service support here, and then you had a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross around 5 months ago, back in December of 2023. And as a result, you ended up having a very, very parabolic bull trend here that lasted for months. It would probably continue to last a lot longer. But the question now is, it's just gone way far above the Tenkan here as opposed to kind of using it as support and testing all the way up here. Now the price, whenever Tenkan is like around 1100s and price is around 2000, that probably wasn't a good spot to buy. It's probably way above where it's supposed to be, and you want to wait for gravity to kind of catch it up a little bit, right? For example, same thing here in the last cycle. You see price went way above over here. This green candle is around, the top around 350, whereas the Tenkan over here was 218. So the next month, the Tenkan did go up to around 250s. And sure enough, you have a big giant wick that went down to like the 270s to kind of get closer to Tenkan before its bullish continuation, right? So I'm not saying that the price can necessarily go down to like 1100s. I'm just going to say that there's a possibility where it can continue to go down, maybe even wick down to around 1200 to 1300s or so before its bullish continuation. The reason why is it just tends to follow these kind of gravity rules. Like you can't just keep going up forever, At some point, it kind of had to come back down, back test a little bit before going up, or at least get close to it. Right now, it's just way too far from the monthly Tenkan. Do I think it's necessarily going to go down all the way down to 1100? No, not necessarily. There are some other indicators. I'll show you why I think that is the case. But if you buy over the last several weeks, and you're already gone down by about 30% or something like that, it's going to be a short-term pain, but there could still potentially be long-term gain. You can try to sell out of it and try to buy it back, but I really honestly don't know how far low it's going to go. All I know is it's still a little bit above the Tenkan that I like. If I'm looking for entry points, if I was to buy this stock, which I'm currently not, but if I was to buy this stock, I might be very much interested around the 1300s levels, and to try to enter that way. Because the risk level is just a lot more decompressed as opposed to way over here. It's getting a little bit too closer to Tenkan here. So that would be to my liking. If it keeps dropping down to like the 1200s or 1100s, I'm okay too. I might end up buying a little bit more there if I am to enter this stock, but I'm not, right? So those are just kind of some of the thoughts here. Now, in addition to showing you the Ichimoku cloud, you can also look at the Bollinger Band. This is also another reason why I show you that I think price is a little bit overextended. There's a potential for it to drop it down to the 1300s because the upper Bollinger Band right now is at 1300. 1308 to be precise, or 09 to be precise. Now, because it's way far above the upper Bollinger Band, things tend to cool down a little bit and wait for price to get inside the upper Bollinger Band before going further for bullish continuation. As you can see, the last cycle, even with these big giant green candle over here, you end up having a wick that actually got back inside the upper Bollinger Band over here before its bullish continuation, right? Even this big giant green candle over here, there's a nice anchor here inside the upper Bollinger Band before its bullish continuation. And when things got way too far, way too fast away from the upper Bollinger Band, you know that things are not going to turn out very well. Next thing you know, there's a bunch of traders that saw, hey, this is not right. Way too far, way too fast. Drop all the way back down. Things got back inside the upper Bollinger Band. And this is kind of how the last cycle over. I think this cycle was probably ended prematurely. That's a different topic for a different day. But I do think the last cycle probably would have had a lot more bullish continuation. If it wasn't because of inflation fears, it wasn't because of Fed. There are a lot of things that happened over this cycle that have prematurely truncated MicroStrategy. Bitcoin did end up making a higher high around November 2021, but MicroStrategy never did, right? So this might also be one of the early risers for Bitcoin because it's a pure leverage play for Bitcoin, really. So the thing is, once they are starting to show a little bit of concern here, there might be a little bit of a higher high for Bitcoin. But MicroStrategy, because it's a leverage play, sometimes people just kind of get out early and they just don't want to get back in because they thought that this is a little bit of a late Bitcoin cycle. It just never really gone a little higher. But I wonder if the same phenomenon is going to happen with MicroStrategy this cycle, but I'm not really sure. But the key thing, though, is to look at how far it's gotten above the upper Bollinger Band. And the further it gets above the Bollinger Band, the higher risk you are. You have to come down here and tag it a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. I'd be potentially interested in an entry level if I was to buy in a stock around 1300 or so, because that's where the upper Bollinger Band is. And you know that it's a very, very parabolic bull trend. You know it's probably going to have a bullish continuation just because the Bollinger Band has significantly expanded, allowing price to go up higher over time. And you also have a very, very nice, nicely accelerating 20-month moving average pointing way up, kind of like here is pointing way up. And I think we might just be at the beginning innings of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 5-6 months of this pointing up, about 5-6 months of this pointing up. And I think that the cycle is truncated prematurely. So there's a potential for the strategies to continue to go a lot higher just because of the way that it's looking right now. The question is, if you're going to buy over here, just be prepared. I could even dip down a little bit lower. There's no guarantee that it's going to stop right at the upper Bollinger Band. Although I think bullish are, I'm also not surprised if it just end up tagging up a Bollinger Band maybe this month or next month before going up. There's a potential, and none of these are absolutes, right? There's a potential where price could just end up going sideways this month and next month, and it can still end up being way outside of a Bollinger Band for about a month or so, and then it just doesn't go anywhere, and next month it just be sideways again for upper Bollinger Band, kind of catch up and to allow price to go a lot higher after that. That's also a possibility. So But if I'm going to look for entry, I'm probably not going to buy now just because there is a little bit of potential risk for it to go downside and tag this or even go lower, just like over here before its bullish continuation. And that's just risk assessment. Those are the Bollinger Bands. So if you look at a Fibonacci level, you're trying to figure out what happened here. First thing to look at Fibonacci is to try to roughly draw from the last cycle high to the cycle low. And if you pull up the Fibonacci level here, you can see something very, very clear here. One is, it looks like it just got rejected right around the 1.618 Fibonacci level. And to be precise, like before it got there around 2000, the traders just basically set up orders and say, you know what, we're just going to sell. Like it could hit that level, but there's a little bit people here that's going to front run this. And they end up selling right around 2000, and they end up selling in 2000. They're looking for a level down here to buy. You know what the confluence level is? Around 1300s. Also what is the confluence level here in the 1300? It was because it was around the cycle high for last cycle, 1315, right? So there's a lot of confluence here around 1300. There might potentially serve as pretty decent support. First of all, it was a previous all-time high. Second, I just showed you there's a little bit of a confluence here where the upper Bollinger is located, right around 1300. Third is you have a nice volume shelf over here that could potentially serve as pretty decent support. So there are a couple of things here to show you on the monthly around 1300. I'll show you some additional information over here too. In terms of why 1300 is going to be a pretty decent level here. Why don't I just go ahead and do that? Because I'd like to show you kind of like the confluences. You put the Ichimoku cloud, you're also going to start getting a lot more support down here with the Tenkan and Kijun. And they're around like 1200. So I do think that there's a potential for 1300 to serve as pretty decent support. It might wick down here to around the 1200 or so before its bullish continuation. Right now it's forming a very, very nice bull flag. It's expected after price just kind of went parabolic. And you can see that the buying volume over here, the entire move has been increasing significantly. So there's a lot of buying commitment that has gone up, but the selling commitment actually has been declining. And the volume has been going down. I mean, granted, the sell volume so far this month has been incredible. For this week, past week has been incredible, still compared to the norm, but the selling volume compared to a couple months ago, compared to a few months ago, overall the selling volume over the last 3 weeks has been going down. So there is going to be at some point some exhaustion of this downtrend, maybe perhaps around 1300, maybe a little bit below, depending on how far Tenkan is going to catch up. Over time, Tenkan is probably also going to catch up too, right? So if there's a potential with Tenkan to the red line over here to get to around 1300s, and maybe even use that as a support to go up higher. Maybe wake down to the Tenkan might catch up to around like the 1200 level or so before its bullish continuation. And this could potentially last for weeks. I mean, usually you have a big giant move like that. You should not be surprised if you end up having like a sideways correction move for about a month to 3 months. And that's just something that is, not unexpected at all. The selling volume is declining though, so I do want to show you some confluence around 1300 level. I do think that the weekly Tenkan and Kijun is going to probably catch up here, and it's probably also going to end up providing support over here too. There's a lot of confluence at that level. Now, going back to the monthly chart here, if you ask me whether or not there's going to be bullish continuation, I think there probably is. I do want to give you a little bit of a warning sign here. One warning sign is that you have started to have a little bit of a decrease in inflow. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a bear trend and that this is over, right? But so far the month, it's only been about a week or so. You do have a little bit of slight decrease in inflow here. It's not that big of a deal because the trend is still very bullish. But, as you see over from here to here, you do have a little bit of decrease in inflow. Next thing you know, it's followed by 2 big giant green candles over here. So to me, that's not that big of a deal, but it's something to kind of watch for. We'll see. The trend overall is still well inflow coming in based on Blackhead L3, Banker Fund Flow also later. So that's one thing to kind of pay attention to. If you want to look at RSI, so far there's not really any particular sign for exhaustion or anything like that. But sometimes it's just going to be tough. Like what you usually see here is if things kind of going sideways here for a while, and if RSI is kind of really been significantly reset down here, that's when you might start to think about this bull trend may be exhausted. But so far, there's not really any particular sign for that. Last cycle, the RSI went all the way up to like 94, Right now, the RSI kind of cooled back down to like the 70. So I think there's some potential things to kind of oscillate over here. We'll see what happens. I still think that we're around maybe like the early to mid cycle of the bull trend for this whole parabolic move. And there's no sign necessarily that Bitcoin's getting exhausted. This is a leverage trade for Bitcoin. So I'm probably gonna end up keep on watching it. I just prefer miners because a lot of them haven't really popped yet. Whereas MicroStrategy, there might be already a lot of forward gain that's already been made. I really don't know. Like looking at the last cycle, I think that MicroStrategy is one of the early riser. Maybe this cycle also is an early riser too, but I do think most likely it's going to keep going up. I'm not really that concerned about it. And the volume so far has just been absolutely very, very nice. So we'll see what happens. Most likely this one is just going to be a little bit of a corrective move, maybe last for another month or so before its bullish continuation. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But those are really kind of some of the levels I would be watching out for. And if you look at the weekly, even the weekly, there really isn't any significant exhaustion in terms of like bearish diversions or anything like that. So I'm not really that worried about trend exhaustion here quite just yet. If anything, you're starting to develop a little bit of, like relative bullish divergence here. You can see the price has gone way up, all the way from, you're talking about like 700 all the way up to around like 1400 now. And RSI at the bottom from low to low point has reset from like, 68 all the way from like 90s all the way from the 60s. This is an expected move. Like if you see an RSI 90 on a weekly, I mean, and you don't really anticipate things just going to keep going up, right? Like last time this had happened, like was around here. RSI, this is around probably like mid cycle or so. RSI was around 90. There's this big giant peak right here. Like you don't really anticipate this. You're just going to keep going. Like you need a little bit of reset over here, which is what this does. It went from like 90 all the way down to like the 70s. And right now, so far, we're really going to talk about like RSI is already reset down to the 60s. So this is a little bit of a bullish divergence here that I'm seeing on the weekly, really allowing price to kind of go up a lot higher. I find this to be quite favorable, actually, if you want to look at the RSI reset. So that is going to be the RSI for the weekly. If you look at the unbalanced volume, there's also another thing that also tells you that something is, getting a little bit more bullish here, because you can also see that there's some bullish divergence over here too. As price had gone down from low to low point over here, you end up having the unbalanced volume, the OBV, to go up. This is a way for you to calculate how much of this, sell volume candles in terms of the volume versus price going down. There is a little bit of a how should I say that? Even though it looks like these are big giant sell volume candles, the buy volume is still pretty strong. What I'm trying to say is there's a little bit of weakness here with the sellers and a little bit of strength with the buyers over here at this particular bull flag over here, which is what you generally would see in bull flags. If you see a divergence, this is a bullish divergence with price kind of going down, with OBV kind of going up. This is a bullish divergence over here. It does tell me that there's a lot more momentum for buyers than sellers. And sometimes these things are kind of, seen in the background. You're not really able to really detect them until you look for them. And I do see a little bit of, a very interesting bull flag here that's increase in OBV with decrease in price. So that's also a little bit of clue to kind of tell me that MicroStrategy is probably going to end up going higher. But the other couple of indicators here too, to kind of show you things might be just a little bit too far overextended here, it might cool down, is to also look at a bull market support band. The thing is, on a bull market, the bull market support band doesn't have to be touched at all. Just because price have gone way above the bull market support band doesn't necessarily mean that it has to go back to gravity all the way back down to the bull market support band. Because I think we're at the stage where it tagged the bull market support band back around January of 2024. And then I think we're at the stage just like the last cycle where it might just not touch the bull market support band for like maybe even closer to like half a year. So I think we're at that stage where things just gotten taken off, and we don't really need the bull market support band to serve as support before going up. And it's kind of ridiculous to see, but the same thing happened last cycle. And these things also happen with Bitcoin and a lot of very, very volatile assets too. Just like over down here, like it doesn't have to touch the boring support band that's downtrending for, really talking about closer to like half a year. Like it doesn't have to touch that on the downtrend. So why do you think it has to touch it on the uptrend? Like it really hasn't done that all the way from August 2020. And the first time it touches that again was in February 2020, March 2021. So you're talking about half a year not touching it. So far, it hasn't really been touching it for last couple of months. I think the trend's probably going to end up continuing. That I'm not so much worried about. The other thing to show you too is that right now 20 over 50 over 100, this new nice bull trend really just started around like August to November 2023, and right now these things once it ticks off. These things when it takes off, you can potentially go for anywhere from like 12 to 24 months. So we'll see what the liquidity conditions are. We'll look for exhaustion. I think the first signs for worries may be weekly divergences with RSI. The second side of worry, you start seeing it on the monthly. And then if, there's also some other signs here to potentially be worried about in terms of the monthly Bollinger Band. You really start to see things kind of starting to roll over here a little bit, but there is no sign for that so far. I mean, things right now just looks a little bit overextended. Things right now just looks like they need to cool down a little bit more. So I'm not that much concerned about it. I'm going to spend a little bit time talk about another stock, but I'm probably going to use it as a separate video. Anyway, this is my contribution to MicroStrategy. It's been 20 minutes. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Bye.